Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. So it's not that warm this time. I've got my jacket on again, just because we're recording at a bit later time in the day. It seems like the heat wave is not as pronounced anymore. But the reason that we're recording later the time of the day is because for most of the actual afternoon, I was busy preparing all the stuff so that I can apply for a visa. So yes, we are working backwards again, it appears. So I shall now tell you about my exploits, I guess, in the vast quest of preparing for a visa, except I'm not going to bore you too much with the details, because it's like, yes, first I got this form, first I got this form. Actually, as I say that, it is mostly just a form gathering. I just mean that, it's one of the things that I've been working on particularly intensely for the past, I guess, week-ish. It's not like nothing has happened in between that time, but you know how last Walking Wednesday I mentioned that July was mainly focused on driving lessons and the test and whatnot? Well, first of all, I've got a new test now that's booked for sooner than January, let's just say. In fact, that one's actually less than a month away. We're still looking for other cancellations beforehand, but I think my 10-day period of waiting between, that I'd legally be required to, has now subsided, to my knowledge. So there you have it. I don't know, but back to visa stuff. So yeah, in between, I was like, well, I mean, regardless of whether or not I passed, it's time to refine those details. It's time to actually, focus on that. Because yeah, we found out on the website that it takes up to 3 months in order to process the stuff, which I assume is mainly because if someone has a criminal record, which I don't, or they have any complications or materials, which I also don't, then they would need to go back and forth a couple of times. I guess the Spanish government would have to decide. It's like, let's not, or something. I'm hoping that's the case, but again, no guarantees. But yeah, it was just a case of some of those things needed some translation, so we sent that off one day, got it back the next. We went to the doctors at one point, actually, to book an appointment to get a medical certificate, which we found we could also do online, so we did that instead, got that translated, got that back next day. So it's mostly been that kind of thing, but yeah, today was trying to work our way through their application website, solving a bunch of captchas, having my laptop not work in that regard, so I had to do everything for my mum's laptop. For some reason, a couple of times I had to repeat certain bits of information, but ultimately we ended up knowing more about what we also need to fill in on one of the other forms than otherwise. So I'm being vague about it because I don't want to bore people, but yeah, it was it seemed to have got worked out in the end. I say seemed to just because we have an appointment tomorrow about that, so yeah, hopefully they accept all of the things that we have, and they put those forward. So yeah, that's just one of those things. Which I guess also means that we've got another trip to London that's going to happen on a day later, which to anyone who is worried that I'm going to delay another Quest of the Rising Sun episode, especially considering that I may or may not be managing that particular episode, then rest assured, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to be there for too long. Because I mean, technically speaking, I guess the application, we've got that on at midday in London. And last time we went to London, obviously, it wasn't, like okay, so like going straight back because it was a particular place in a giant city, you know, for my dad's, you know, book signing, release, whatever it was. So last time we did that, it took a couple of hours, you know, of travel distance, both ways. And that was the issue. So, you know, let's say that we arrived there at midday and I have to, you know, even though my appointment's on time, say they're running late and I have to like queue whatever, then I have to process a bunch of stuff. I assume that because they asked me to leave certain things with them, that it's going to check that everything is valid for them, and then they don't have to process back and forth in the moment. They're not going to be like granted the visa immediately. That's what the 3 up to 3 months was for. That's my understanding, at least. Which means that I most likely will not be in the building itself for too long. So, you know, let's say that I happen to be back around 3 or 3:30 at my time. And usually Quest of the Rising Sun starts at 7 to 7:30 my time. So yeah, again, I'm hoping that that's not going to be a problem. But that's just me making random suppositions. I've yet to inform Quest of the Rising Sun team about this, but only because, like, again, I just found out, and what I've done since then is eat. So, and yeah, tomorrow is the good day because like they close on the weekends, and I have plans on Friday, which I will get back to in a moment's time, because I mentioned that my laptop had issues, and I think I should probably talk about that for a little bit. So, what happened with the well, something about my laptop, obviously there's been a bunch of issues for the past week or so regarding the freezing of a lot of streams, particularly. And yeah, I have had some issues sometimes when, you know, I had stuff open like Minecraft, for example. But most of the freezing, like the genuinely super long ones, happened when I was using Restream, sharing screens, and or calling someone on Discord. Those seem to be the major things that were affecting my computer's performance overall. And there have been several steps that we've taken to fix those. In case anyone hasn't missed, if anyone has missed the most recent streams, it just so happens that all of this came about around the same time that my annual subscription, premium subscription to Restream, was due to renew automatically. And because of a number of things to do with Restream, not least because it was making because it had updated and removed a lot of the features that I had signed up the premium plan for in the first place. It also seemed to be having, you know, all the freezing issues I mentioned before. So my question was whether or not it was actually worth renewing Restream at all, which is the reason that I decided to look into their prime competitor, StreamYard, which is the same service that that TreatPop uses, to name but one example. I think actually also Flowerpot 1300 uses it. So, but like, you know, very occasionally. I think that was what we used for, or what she used rather, for the Australia quiz, you know, back in the day. But yeah, so I looked into that, but at the same time, because there was another plan that I had, you know, it could have just not been Restream, because again, it was happening when I was using Discord. In fact, it happened during a Discord call once that didn't involve any sharing of screens or use of Restream whatsoever. So, thinking about it from that perspective, it was almost like what was I going to say? So it would have not have mattered with Restream. So at the same time, I took my dad up on an old offer that he made some time ago, because at one point he just like randomly either appeared in my room or in the living room. I forget where we were exactly, and or actually I might have been in the in his like office study room actually, and he just mentioned that he had a bunch of some like, you know, computer like small computer machines basically, that kind of look like DVD players that are flipped on their side, for anyone who that example might be relevant to this day. So they don't look like computers themselves. They just have the computing power, and they can attach to monitors and, you know, do all of that fun stuff. And he said that since he had like a bunch of those, and I'd already seen there's one attached to our TV for that matter, I'd already seen how they worked. He then just said to me, "Oh, if you ever need one of these computer things, just let me know." And so, remembering that he had said that, I did. I requested one, and it took a while to set that up actually, because it turns out that if they don't turn on for a long time, they take some issues. They actually also require a constant power supply, rather than just the usual like charging up of batteries. I guess they're too small to have their own private battery inside of them, I guess. I don't really know. And it turns out that while he had like 3 spare of those computers, they didn't have too many power supplies to use. So that was a bit of an issue. So yeah, while I was looking into like getting StreamYard and potentially updating to Windows 11, which might be another issue, yeah, he was busy working on that, and then finally he provided that. And just to briefly say, yes, I'm still using Windows 10, and the reason for that, in case people don't remember one of the other old Walking Wednesdays from back in the day, reason I was doing that was because when I tried to update my computer to Windows 11 in the past, it just ceased to work altogether. Like, it seemed to think, like, okay, well, it's got to get rid of the old operating system and then install the new one. So it got rid of the old one, and then the new one was like, maybe I don't feel like installing myself today. So I tried to run like several like diagnostic tests and, you know, a bunch of things, and sometimes the computer would just turn itself off randomly, or the power startup only worked 1 out of 3 times I tried to do it. And that was actually on the day of my 10th anniversary on YouTube, which is the reason that I had to use the TV computer thing as an emergency for Deckaday, because otherwise I wouldn't have achieved that. I was like, oh, well, you know, while this is the last video is premiering, I might as well update my computer, and then it just did not work accordingly. I think it was while the last musical episode was premiering. Like, that was specifically the video in question. Like, so yeah, and then the last video of the day was a stream of the behind the scenes of that, and so I kind of needed to be there for it. So in an emergency, I just attached like everything I possibly could, and did the stream. So in the back of my head, I was like, okay, this is a good alternative. And I technically have everything set up to try to install Windows 11. I'm just hesitant to press the button to approve of that, because, you know, what if it happens again, for example? So yeah, I'm kind of worried about that, but, you know, until such a time that, you know, my dad did also say we might have to look into getting me a new computer if the issues persist. Which leads me to my next point. Because that was, of course, like I said, conditional on whether or not the issues persisted. And did they? Well, I wouldn't know for a couple of days. Because the first day that I tested both the computer, the new one, and Streamlab, you know, it seemed to work just fine, surprisingly. I can stream without the use of my headphones to moderate the sound, or cause any extreme issues with like echo or something. So that was one thing to consider. There's a car that's looking for a parking spot, so I'm gonna... Let's see, is it going in here? No. Okay. Or maybe it is stopping. I can't tell. I was going this way because we actually had a quiz night last night, and I was going to talk about that again when we got here, but I haven't finished the computer story yet. So, yes, the first night I tested the StreamYard on the computer. 0 freezes. The computer itself took a while to start up, so I just, you know, have to bear that in mind whenever I restart the device in question. And then also, but then of course I was at the free program, and I still do. And yeah, there are a couple of things that I can't do, but it says I can offer them. In fact, it actually has many options to new stuff to include with it, even with the what was it, basic plan rather than a premium one. I can't remember what they call it, or standard potentially. I don't really know. But yeah, like even with the free version, all I'm missing is recording in 720p. No, sorry, in 1080p. I mean, I can do 720, and in fact, I forgot to set that. And people apparently, when I record in 480, because of the resolution, it looks much more personal. So there you go. Apparently, this is what people want. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, like it actually, again, it worked even better than Restream Premium. You know, even if we don't factor in the lack of freezing that ensued, like that was something. So I was very happy with it, and I was ready to buy the program already. Problem is, I hadn't tested if it could handle guests, because no one showed up for that one as a guest. So did that the following night, and it was fine. And then we come to the quiz night, and I had once again forgotten that whenever we have our guests that we have on our quiz team, they tend to stay the night, which meant that the room would not be available for the second time in the week, because we also had another guest staying over that I did not realize would be arriving super late and might be requiring a shower, so I had to move the stuff back up and stream normally for a night. But but yeah, the second time that happened, so for quiz nights, I decided, okay, I'm gonna keep using StreamYard, but I'll use my my old laptop. You know, we'll see if the issue in this case truly was Restream. And guess what? During the entirety of the editing stream, there were no issues regarding showing of screens, which was one of the main concerns that we had. The one thing I haven't tried to do on StreamYard yet is call someone on Discord at the same time. Although, again, I don't think Quest the Rising Sun on KW's channel would be the best chance to do that, because that's not fair to KW. So, you know. But yeah, like it seemed like, at least in terms of the real freezing combination, apart from that one Discord call that I had, it does seem that Restream was one of the problems, and StreamYard does not have that problem. Maybe there is, of course, the matter that could be because I wasn't streaming in 1080p like I normally do, but I mean, even then, the only internet issue we had was like during Code Lyoko night, which also involves sharing of screens, and that required and that was, I think it was an error on Ghosty's end where she cut out for a bit. That's it. That was all. That's everything. So yeah, pretty happy overall. So yeah, there's the issue we had on the editor stream is that apparently if I'm constantly sharing my my just a window rather than like a tab or something, it likes to close down after a certain time. Not sure if that's to limit the feature on the free plan. I don't know. And I didn't try the entire screen because I thought that would probably be a bit too much. But then again, maybe I should have done just as a way to check. Oh my goodness! I think I just recognized two people who are going the opposite direction to me. I'm not going to draw attention to them, but actually I saw both of them yesterday. If I'm correct as to who they are, and that would be the director of my old drama club and her eldest daughter, who I have known for literally her entire life and more, because she was pregnant with that very daughter the first year that I was at the club itself. But anyway, the reason I guess good chance to segue into that, because I mentioned that I made a promise on Friday, and the reason I did that is because as I saw that same daughter and her father, who recognized me, I was walking down the high street with my dad. So we stopped for a bit and caught up, and he told me that that they were working on like a performance on Friday. I already knew that. I was planning to show up to that anyway, because actually, with my dad as well, I checked the previous day to see what days that would be happening, and it turns out that it was in fact Friday, because it's like one of those play in the week things. In fact, my first paid job, well, actually my second paid job, was that play in a week a few years back, actually, under the director. So it turns out, they're doing that again, and I was going to be like, oh, I'm going to show up for the performance. And I just so happened walking past the hall itself that it's going to be in, and so I decided, and so you said like, oh, director's name is in the. You go and say hi. And now I had first thought that like everyone would be there, and I have gone back in the past to visit that particular club on a couple of occasions. Sometimes where it's like, let's check up on it. And you said if I would come back sometime, I should, and so I did a couple of times. And wherever that happens, all mayhem breaks loose. We used to call that particular club the Screaming Girls. That was my mum's nickname for it. Because for like the first 3 years, I was the oldest by quite a large margin, and I was also the only boy. So it was just a case of like whenever she would come to pick me up from there, she would just hear a bunch of screaming girls, because we like to play what the Spanish call peloton, actually, which is just a version of tag, where one person stays in the middle and they have to try and catch somebody along the side while they're like running back and forth. Which, now that I think about it, would be a good version to play with my cousin. Should bring that up next time. I don't know if I remember for the next family reunion. Anyway, so that was her nickname, and there were like a few boys that that eventually joined as well, but I was still the oldest by a significant margin. But yeah, so like whenever I showed up again, because I kind of like, because of that, I mentioned I'm like an older sibling type of figure, or at least I was. Depends on like how many of the people are still there that actually remember me, because like like I said before, like that the daughter in question was very young whenever I was around, so I don't think she actually knew who I was. So it would depend. Because I don't know who was around a lot, but like in the past, yeah, whenever I showed up, if they were like in the middle of rehearsals or something, you know, they would just like shout my name and either like, and then like suddenly everyone would like join in. Some of them like rush up sometimes. So I was like, well, let's not distract them about this matter. If they were mid rehearsal. Turns out that when I actually did show up there, it was just the director and the choreographer clearing up. So, you know, I peeked through the door just in case. And yeah, of course, you know, they both recognized me and we had a bit of a conversation. That was fine because it was the end of the day, rehearsals were over, so, you know, wasn't distracting them too much. Apparently there's 51 people in this, in the cast. So of course the joke's like, oh yeah, you're free this week. Turns out the answer is no, but, you know. The other reason that I got my my first DVS background check, which I did not mention to them. Probably should have done, actually, now I mention that. But anyway, whatever. They also said that, you know, if I was around at like 3:30, that's when they unlock the doors. And that would be the end of rehearsal time. My dad then mentioned that it's because like that's a new legal requirement because of a recent attack that happened to a dance group from somebody else. I can't remember what the area was specifically. So I get that, but yeah. So I was like, oh well, you know, maybe if during Wednesday and Thursday I might stop for like an actual chat with people rather than, you know, for the actual show. As it turns out, you don't even have to like book the show itself. You can just attend the show. And apparently you don't have to pay for it either, which is, you know, extra bonus. So my plan of booking a ticket and showing up is looking like I just have to show up. So that's what I've endeavored to do, and that's why I didn't want to book for the visa on Friday. Like if I had to, in the moment, like if there was like no other days that were available, that I would have done. But it seems like every weekday they have available time slots there for like one day on like the 20-something, which was fully booked, but whatever. Didn't matter to us. And that's how we're going tomorrow. So yeah, you know, we found a way. You know, like I'm not oblivious to the fact that that's like an important thing. But it's just a case of, you know, managing time, which I guess leads me to my last story for today, which has to do with the Final Break auditions. Because if people haven't seen on Final Break, the new upcoming project from Emily Nightwolf VA, is the as she is officially known, then that's that it's another Butterverse thing. That's what I'll say. Set in the UK, and a lot of stuff happens. So yeah, I'm not gonna give spoilers because I was there for because obviously like as it's Butterverse, I have to be there to like supervise certain elements of the script, and also apparently Emily wanted to talk to me today about that. So by the time that I get back home, I will probably be going straight to going through Final Break script stuff with Emily and Bon, who has also been involved with the creative process of the script, and has apparently signed on to animate the entire thing. So it's a fully animated project. And I believe it's also, you know, another Aiden collaboration because, you know, Aiden likes to be involved with all of the scripts, which we can only but admire. But, you know, because of, I guess, like, the influence of all of those combined people, or just really good PR, whatever they did, there were a lot of people who signed up for auditions. Plenty of new faces. In fact, I believe the server has up to, like, 50 members, which is good because because it feels like there's about 50 characters. There aren't, but, like, it feels that way. It's a big ensemble, let's just say. And so, of course, that was one of the things that I mentioned in last Walking Wednesday, when I was talking about bad headspaces and the fact that there were so many of the things I put aside due to driving lessons and I was finally catching up with. And that happened to be, I'm just going to turn around here because there's a car, and they turn off the engine right as I'm passing, I'm about to pass. Cool. Anyway, I need to head back this way regardless because there's no way out there, apart from downhill. So yeah, that was the one thing that happened within late July. Was the main auditions, and then afterwards turns out that they were going to do callbacks for a few of the characters, which is where you knew which characters you were in the run-up for. In my case, I was in the run-up for two of them, those two being Milo and Blake. And before I tell you more about that, I'm going to free up some storage. So, one moment. Boom! Here we are, with 9 minutes to spare rather than the 8 that I thought I had. I did not delete the wrong video, I'm almost sure of it. Anyway, so what was I saying? I was on the same street, by the way. Yeah, talking about Final Break callbacks. So what they wanted for the Final Break callbacks was, because a lot of the characters, they had a lot of like intense emotions that they would need to be able to express, and so they decided that, okay, well, we need to be able to like simulate these different things. So I think it was like a panic attack, crying, intense anger, so it was like one extra line that everyone said, and one other thing that I'm forgetting now, which honestly, now that I think about it, at the time I was kind of like, oh well, you know, kind of a bit of a pain on my end to be like, oh well, now I've got to do like another thing again. It's like I thought this was over, just because of like clearing the schedule. But honestly, now I can kind of see it, because it's actually a pretty genius idea. See, in the past, whenever I've done auditions for particular characters, and I know that they're going to need to do like certain things, like say for example, the most recent audition that I did, which was like a year ago, but you know, whatever. Second most recent. So there was time where I had to like replace a couple of VAs going forward for Mutant Girl, and one of those was Pop. And so, of course, because I knew that eventually, you know, within the span of a few years, the person who was playing Pop would need to be more aware than the original Pop was, that there was a gigantic monologue that is approaching. Well, I say gigantic. It's gigantic by Gacha standards. So what I should have done is I should have just I should have had like a couple of like other acid lines, like give like different emotions or something, but instead I said like, okay, the Pop audition is the monologue, so anyone who's wants to who's able to do this monologue, then they can do anything else for Pop. But now that I think about it, that probably scared away a lot of people who would have been otherwise quite eligible, and so that probably decreased the number of people auditioning, which also means that like people less likely wanted to take part because they realized like, okay, but this show does not have as much pull as it might otherwise. You might also think. Like, Final Break has had a lot of impetus to it, despite the fact that there's not been anything released, you know, as in like actual episode-wise, because we're still preparing for it. That's like the big hurdle that a lot of shows have to get over, and one that we don't tend to struggle with because we can show actual results. That's been like a one big advantage in the gacha community, but like actually now I think about it, that's maybe I should do like a callback method for next time. But yeah, in the moment I can see why I thought like, oh, okay, well that's going to be somewhat frustrating, but it was a necessary evil as far as they were concerned, because yeah, for Final Break particularly, from what I can say is that there are definitely, I confirm there are intense moments, and they need to have people who are going to be able to account for those. So at some point within, actually, I think it was like a it was like a day where I was like, oh, you know, on the go for like non-stop, like 10 hours actually, because there was like 2 hours of me going through backed up voice acting auditions, you know, that I saved for after the test, or like line submissions or something, followed up by Quest of the Rising Sun one shot for 5 hours, and then Nerdy Prudes Must Die for the remaining 2.5 or 3, however many long it was. So, you know, pretty intense day, which somewhat actually confirms the concern that was raised to me further down the line, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, the day of the results was August 2nd, and I was up for Milo and Blake, as I mentioned before. I cut the feed. And yeah, so Milo was one where I auditioned just my regular voice. Blake, they asked me to choose a different voice entirely, but they still accepted that. Oh, okay, well, I'm good something in the ballpark. I happened to be up against Aiden for the role of Blake, so I decided to do the Daniel voice, because that's sort of similar to where Aiden is on the register anyway. So I did the callbacks both as myself, and then trying to do the intense emotions as with the Daniel voice, or what could have been the Blake voice, and sent that off. I forget who was up against. Oh, it was Sedi VA, who was one of the new ones, who was up for Milo as well. So yeah, I like, for each person there was like one person who was like, okay, well, I gotta focus on what you're doing in order to get this role. Or I guess, at least be aware of it, not focus on it, but like be aware of it. So like I joked about that with Aiden at one point. It's like, oh, well, you know, we're up against each other now. Because that rarely happens, by the way. Usually we end up going through the different parts, or Aiden close casts himself into like other things, and also me, rather than us having to directly compete against each other. The biggest competition we had was who was going to play, who's going to voice Emil in The People Above, to which I at one point like pulled seniority on him almost, because I really wanted to play Emil. But that's the only time I've like done that. Normally it's him who does that. That's usually our competition. So like in a standard audition piece, it's like, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. So the time came, and for both Milo and Blake, I got understudy. So the role went to Sedi and Aiden respectively, and if they are not around, then that falls onto me. I was not aware they were doing understudies, because that was announced during the callbacks themselves. But hey, you know, they say it's better than nothing, and they're technically correct. And I thought that was mainly it. I was like, okay, well, fair enough, I suppose. It's something that happens, and there were a lot of people there. So, you know, if that was the other day, that was all that was needed. And then I think there's the day after the callbacks, or it could have been the day of, and I just found it the day after, that Bon messaged me privately and explained that the reason that I got understudy for both of those characters was because remember like last Walking Wednesday where I like referenced Bon's roles like specifically as far as like increasing the pressure, mainly because of like the threat of cancellation over the the projects, because I can understand everyone has their own deadlines, and that's not necessarily, you know, my fault. I can't really, I mean like I can't account for that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, like it kind of the moment was like, oh, so that's the reason. Because I mean, I can understand, you know, not having not getting a role when it comes to you know, just the people being like more suited for the role. That's how casting works. That's life. That's how, yeah, that's show business. But yeah, when I think about it in terms of like, well, if that was the problem, then that was what I was trying to resolve. And if I thought that I wasn't going to be able to do that one, then I wouldn't have done the callbacks in the first place. So I wish I was trying to lighten my workload. But also I'm wondering why I got approached directly for that. So I just wanted to, like, the reason I'm bringing this whole thing up is because I don't want, I hope that I haven't given off the impression to anyone that I feel like entitled to different roles or something. And I'm sorry if I have, if in the past of auditions. Like, yeah, for one of my 2.0's things for Cat Noir, I asked to re-audition, because I didn't, like, nail the Cat Noir voice according to her. But apart from that, no, I'm fine with most of that stuff. Okay, it turns out that it took so long to upload the last one that I actually cleared out all the storage, because the first video with the longest cuts posted, and I was just trying to do like a final statement now, but I don't have all the space in the world. No, but honestly, yeah, back to what I was saying. Yeah, I do hope that I haven't given anyone that impression, because like I said, like I was trying to cover this briefly, but yeah, there's a few times where I'm like, oh well, you know, if because like I saw my Cat Noir impression I was talking about with my example, you know, to one person that impression is spot on. To me, it's average, and to somebody else, it was not perfect, which could be, you know, anything from like, you know, a slight intonation was wrong pitch, or I just didn't base it off of Cat Blanc nearly enough, or I don't know. Even it could have been the mic. Could be a number of reasons, but I did like, that was like one example where like I requested like a chance to, you know, redo it, but it's not like I was, you know, offended or anything necessarily. It's just that, you know, again, some people have particular visions. And to be perfectly honest, for something like Final Break, I was impressed I made it that far to begin with, actually. Considering that, yes, I do have the accent, but especially considering that one of them was like my normal voice. It's one of the things that I, you know, Emily found out when she first messaged me, actually, was that I am very surprised when people cast me as young teenagers, of which Milo and Blake both fit that description. But yeah, I don't want to give off an image where it's just like, well, you know, just because I have landed a bunch of gacha voice acting roles in the past, that I somehow feel like I am entitled to keep doing so, and that I therefore require justification of that nature in order to, I guess, satiate the ego that I might have. Like, no, honestly. Like, I'm sorry if I gave off that impression, again, like I said before, but yeah, it's one of the things where, like, yeah, I can accept the verdict of, you know, okay, maybe my skill set is applied better elsewhere. Like, bear in mind, like, I've been a director of voice acting longer than I think any single other person has in the entirety of the gacha community. So I've been in the situation where I know that some people are more or less suited to certain roles than others. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad voice actors or not good enough. They just were not what someone was looking for. And they teach you that, like, right away in almost every audition. Like, it's almost like a bit of a buzzword situation, in all fairness, where it's like, oh yeah, of course they would say that. But yeah, again, now that I've been on the other side for so many years, yeah, I get that. It is a case where you're looking for something specific, and unless the person matches what you're looking for, it doesn't matter if you get that. It's, you know, it's like it was the meme of you know, I was a little girl in Alaska or something like that. I can't remember exactly what that was. But I mean, it's kind of like the case where, you know, if you happen to be doing like an adaptation of, I don't know, just off the top of my head, Alice in Wonderland, you're not going to cast Morgan Freeman as Alice, for example. Or if you do, you are inviting a whole different type of production, and more power to you. But most of the time, people are not going to do that. So I understand that. So I was more surprised that it was to do with like the scheduling, which I will reiterate is getting better. Like after next week, chances are I'll be going back to doing like more driving stuff because it'll be mostly me waiting for visa stuff. If all goes according to plan, then I just have to wait for that. They did send me an email that I was checking a bit today during the visa application process, where there are certain things where like, oh yeah, enroll in our teacher training course by, you know, the 21st, and you have to do it until the 28th or something. And I don't know, it's like something that they offer for free for the analyst assistants. And there's a bunch of other stuff where it's like, well, here's what you should do when you arrive, and that's like the next step. And they said stuff like, oh, what should you have done already in that one? And things they've mentioned have been apply for a child protection certificate and also for the visa. And I have the protection certificate because that's what I need for the visa. And yeah, so after this point, you'll probably be back to driving for a bit. But in the meantime, I've cleared out quite a number of things. So I guess what I'm trying to say in the interim of all this stuff is my schedule is clearing up, I'm doing better, and please still hire me if you are searching. But obviously for the right reasons. That's it, really. Good luck to the people in final break, and chances are you'll have my support from behind the scenes if I actually get back, because it's getting late now. I need to get back and hopefully join that scripting call that Emily wanted. So go ahead and do that now. So please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. And subscribe to us already, and hi me. And on that note, until next time, farewell. Headspace, far better than last week.